गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा शील प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा शील प्रभुपदा जो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परमेश्वर श्रीमद ईश्वराय विशेष भक्तिदान दशम शील प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन संस्थापकाचार्य शील प्रभुपाद की जय जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परमेश्वर सदा श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय जय विष्णुपाद श्री हरिवर किशोरदास महाराज की जय जय विष्णुपाद सच्चिदानंद श्री भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर की जय जय विष्णुपाद वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास महाराज की जय जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्टर गुणाशी जी गोपाल भट्टदास गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय नमाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से गुरु श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत दाता गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री राधा कृष्ण गोकुल श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय श्री गौरांगी बैंगलोरेश्वर भगवान की जय श्री मायापुर धाम की जय श्री उद्धव धाम की जय गंगमई की जय यमुनामयी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय तुलसी देवी की जय अनंतपुरी वैष्णव वृंद की जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय इस्कॉन वर्तमान गुरुवंद की जय समाज भक्तों की जय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल all glories to the assembled bodies, all glories to the assembled, all glories to the assembled, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada की जय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Apatreshu Dityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Friday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 8, text 31 and text 32. First read text 31. Munayah padavim yasya nissangenoru janmavihi na vidur mrigayantopi tivra yoga samadhina. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Narada Muni continued, after trying this process for many births and remaining unattached to material contamination, placing themselves continually in trance and executing many types of austerities, many mystic yogis were unable to find the end of the path of God realization. No purport. Text 32. Ato nivartatam esa nirbandastabas nishfalaha yatishyati bhavan kale shreyasam sabapastite. Ato nivartatam esa nirbandastava nishfalaha यतिष्यति भवान् काले श्रेयसां समुपस्थिते अतो निवर्तताम् एष निर्बन्धस्तव निष्फलः यतिष्यति भवान् काले श्रेयसां समुपस्थिते. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. For this reason, my dear boy, you should not endeavor for this. It will not be successful. It is better that you go home. When you are grown up by the mercy of the Lord, you will get a chance for these mystic performances. At that time, you may execute this function. Generally, a thoroughly trained person takes to spiritual perfection at the end of his life. According to the Vedic system, therefore, life is divided into 4 stages. In the beginning, one becomes a brahmachari, a student who studies Vedic knowledge under the authoritative guidance of a spiritual master. He then becomes a householder and executes household duties according to the Vedic process. Then the householder becomes a vanaprastha, and gradually, when he is mature, he renounces household life and vanaprastha life also and takes to sannyasa, completely devoting himself to devotional service. Generally, people think that childhood is meant for enjoying life by engaging oneself in sports and play. Youth is meant for enjoying the company of young girls, and when one becomes old at the time of death, then he may try to execute devotional service or a mystic yoga process. But this conclusion is not for devotees who are actually serious. The great sage Narada is instructing Dhruva Maharaja just to test him. Actually, the direct order is that from any point of life, one should begin rendering devotional service. But it is the duty of the spiritual master to test the disciple to see how seriously he desires to execute devotional service. Then he may be initiated. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshusmalitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadamakyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Dapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sankirjatam Sagar Raghunathanvitam Tam Sijibam Satvaitam Samadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Taptakanchana Gaurangi Adindavaneshwari Vishimanishta Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhyesh Vasnubhya Patitanam Pavane Vaishnave Namo Namo. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Moham karo devachalam kulange dikrime ekbat Muhammad Shiguram Devata Paramadama Shri Chaitanya Ishvara. Hare Krishna. So we hear in this two verses, we see that the first verse, Narad Muni is telling Dhruva Maharaj that this process of meditation, many great rishis and saintly personalities have tried for many births, and when they have remained unattached to this process, and being unattached to material contamination, they achieve the position of trance, and they execute many different types of austerities, and they have been unable to find the end of uh, the path of God realization. So the purpose of God realization is to achieve the goal of love for Krishna, and other than that, there is no other goal in in the path of God realization. So now he is telling that in verse number 32 that, my dear boy, you should not endeavor for this. It will not be successful. Therefore, it is better that you go home. When you are grown up, then definitely by the mercy of Lord, you will get a chance to do these mystic performances. And at that time, you may execute this function. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions about meditation in the first sloka. Generally, there are two types of yogis who are unattached. And one type of yogi is that they who meditate on the Paramatma form of the Lord. They are unattached. And an attached yogi is one who meditates on the universal form or the Virat form of the Lord. So many times yogis have difficulty in meditating on the Paramatma form. So they meditate on the universal form as described in Srimad Bhagavatam. One cannot meditate on anything impersonal. So they are recommended to meditate on the Satchitanda form of the Lord, the original spiritual form of the Lord. But then it is not imaginary, it's a true form. And then the description is given in the Shastras. And if one does not uh, meditate on that form, then it can bring a person to fall down. The process for meditation for Ashtanga yogis is the same for the devotees also, who need some purification. So it is said that there are three forms of the Lord to meditate on. Devotees meditate on the spiritual form of the Lord, that is the Satchidanda Vigraha, that is eternity, bliss, and knowledge, but then it has got a spiritual form. The Ashtanga yogis meditate on the Paramatma form of the Lord, and the materialists meditate on the Virat form of the Lord. But then this meditation is something that one has to focus his mind without disturbance on the external factors. Then one can be successful. And what happens is generally we cannot visualize the spiritual form of the Lord due to our contamination. Therefore, the Lord has facilitated by giving a deity form in the temples to meditate on. So here also the process is that one should meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord, gradually going up to the calves, then the thighs, and going higher and higher to the lotus smiling face of the Lord. So this is how meditation is done. But meditation, as I said, should be free from all external disturbances. Rather, one who meditates should meditate in a way that he is not disturbed by external factors. There's a small example given about a very senior devotee who is practicing meditating. And then while he was meditating, one girl came across, crossed over him, meditating on the boy that she had in mind. So when he was reading prayers, suddenly when the girl came and fell on him, he got very upset. So saying that he should give her some punishment for her carelessness. But she replied, I was engrossed in my boyfriend when you were meditating. But what is the meditation that you are doing if you got disturbed while you are reading your prayers? So she gave a perfect reply. The example is given so that you must understand meditation is not something very external. It has got to do internally also, and one should meditate on the form of the Lord. It's not very easy, particularly in Kali Yuga. Even in Satyuga, it was very, very difficult when it was the process for deliverance. But in Kali Yuga, it is as good as impossible. So in the Nectar of Devotion, there is a quote that if someone becomes attached to the Sri Murti or the deity of Krishna by worshipping at home, then he will forget his relationships with the so-called friendship, love, and society. Therefore, it is a duty of every householder to install deities of the Lord at home and worship them by involving all the members of his family. This will save everyone from going to unwanted places like clubs, cinemas, and dancing parties, and so forth. In the deities of home, one has to get up early in the morning to serve the deities, offer them puja, offer them boga, and so many nice, good clothing, and so many activities are involved, which all help in one's purification of the contaminated existence. So, therefore, it is said that Archana means worship of the Lord in the temple. By executing this process of Archana, one confirms that he is not the body, but he is a spirit soul. So when we offer flowers and tulsi leaves, etc., the lotus feet of the Lord in the Archana process, one gradually becomes purified. And as one progresses and reaches a higher stage of purification, one can see the smiling face of the Lord one day. That is, one can relish it is said that one can even relish the rasa dance pastime of the Lord. The rasa dance is compared to the smiling face of the Lord. The purpose of meditation is to meditate on the transcendental form of the Lord to purify one's own intelligence. The way of purification can be identified by how one becomes detached from sense gratification, mainly the sixth desire. So, as the more one continues to meditate on the transcendental form of the Lord, one becomes free from sexual desires. So, he can realize, yes, I'm losing the interest in other material activities. That means one is progressing in devotional service, and that meditation is successful for him. To the extent that one is attached to sense gratification, one should continue to meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord himself. So one should continue to recite the first and second cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam till purification is achieved, and then gradually process. This is what Srila Prabhupada recommended, that we should continue to read the first and second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam as long as we have some material desires. Sometimes people would like to hear pastimes and not understand the tattva, but then it is very, very important that one must understand the tattva, and then one relishes the pastimes in a much better way, and also the greatness of the Lord. Similarly, when one understands the first few cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, then his understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam also becomes better. So therefore, it is mentioned in the Vishnu Rahasya that any person who can arrange for service to the Lord, in the same way that a king is given service by his attendants, is surely elevated to the abode of Lord, abode of Krishna after death. Actually, in India, the temples are just like royal palaces. That means anyone who gives the same welcome to the Lord in the house as much as an attendant would give to a king, when one does those activities, then is sure to achieve the abode of the Lord after death. So the temples are not normally ordinary buildings, but because the worship of Krishna should be performed in such a way that a king is worshipped in his palace. So it is mentioned that in Vrindavan there are many hundreds and thousands of temples wherein the deity is worshipped exactly like a king. In the Naradiya Purana also it is stated that if a person stays in the Lord's temple, even for a few moments, he can surely achieve the transcendental kingdom of God. So that is the power of the Archana process. According to the purity of consciousness, those who are very much attached to sense gratification should meditate on the universal form, and the devotees can take part in the Archana form of the Lord. So depending on one's consciousness, if one is a very gross materialist, he can continue to meditate on the universal form of the Lord, and the devotees can take part in the Archana form of the Lord. The opportunity is given to everyone by the Lord so that he can understand the process of self-realization and progress in that path. Then there are other means of meditation also that is given. For example, this is all from Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It is said that one should meditate dhyanam or meditate on the Supreme Person in one of the 9 ways, that is the Yoga Mishra Bhaktas. We'll go through each of these. One is Kavim. The Lord is omniscient, or the one who knows everything that is past, present, and future. One can meditate in this aspect of the Lord. Second one is Puranam, as the one who is the oldest or beginningless. He is ever youthful, or Navayavvanam Cha. Lord Brahma also prays in Brahma Savita, Navayavvanam Cha. The Lord is always ever youthful. He doesn't have a beginning, he doesn't have an end. The third one is Anusha Sitaram. The Lord is a controller of everything, all the universes and all the living entities, and all that we see and all that we can We cannot see sunrise, moonrise, etc. That means when one contemplates on the fact that the Lord is the cause of everything, He is the cause of the universe, He is the ultimate controller of all the living entities, etc. This is one aspect which is also called Anushasitaram. The fourth one is called Ano Anohaniyam Yamsam, one who is smaller than the smallest. I mean, the Lord can become smaller than the smallest and also bigger than the biggest. The next one is Sarvasya Dataram, who is a maintainer of everything. The Lord maintains this universe as Mahavishnu. The next point is uh, Achintya. The Lord is beyond all material conception. That is one who is inconceivable. We cannot conceive about the Lord. So he's with our material eyes or material ears, etc. So that is why he's called Achintya. Then Rupam, the Lord, one who has got a beautiful personality. Lord is very beautiful, extremely beautiful, and one can meditate on that. Then the other one is Aditya Varnam. That is, he is luminous like the sun and self-revealing. Then the last one is Tamasak Parastar. He is transcendental, or he is beyond this material nature, which is full of ignorance. So the material world is basically of three gunas, of which mainly it is passion and ignorance. So the Lord is transcendental to these three modes of material nature. So this is how the small description of the three modes of material nature is given. Now in text number 32, Narada Muni is actually telling Dhruva Maharaj, if you please go home, when you grow up and then to the Lord, by the mercy of the Lord, you will get an opportunity to perform this meditation. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions about the Varnasrama system. The Lord himself says in Bhagavad Gita that he Chaturvarnam Maya system Gunakarna Vibhagasaha. Tasya kartaram apinam mam vidya kartaram avyayam. According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. That means the Lord has created this Varnasrama system according to the work performed by a person and the three modes of material nature. Then he says, although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am not yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. So the Lord is transcendent to the three modes of material nature, and he is not affected by these, but we get affected. So then it is mentioned, they are mentioned in the Shastras, that if we perform our duties for 100 births as per the Varnasrama system, then we get a chance to become a Brahma. That means we have got the Varnasrama system. If one is situated in the Grihasthasrama, if he lives as a perfect Grihastha for 100 births, then he can get a chance to become Brahma in one lifetime. So this Grihasthasram, the word Grihasthasrama comes from Asraya. That is taking shelter, that is from Krishna. Yeah. One should take an ashram that is suitable to one's quality. That means the four ashramas are Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi. One should take an ashram that is suitable to one's qualities. If one is not qualified enough to be a Brahmachari, one should enter into a Grihastha ashrama. One should not take a sannyasa unless and until he is not qualified to become sannyasa. But the general practice was, those days people used to enter into the brahmachari ashram because this process was successful in Satyayuga, where boys would be sent to the Gurukul. They would learn the Vedic knowledge from the Guru, and then they would learn everything, different various arts and skills in the Gurukul. After that, they would come back home, and then at a suitable time, when they become qualified, either they can take directly sannyasa, or if they are not qualified, they can enter the grihasthasrama. The age recommended was 25 years for brahmachari, 26 to 50 as grihasthasrama. 51 to 75 was generally recommended to go on vanaprastha. That means at the age of 50, one should not remain in the household life for a very long time. Rather, they should leave their family and either travel to the forest along with wife or without wife. If they go with the wife, then after spending 25 years, the wife comes back to the home to live, to be protected and taken care of by her children. The male member, husband, generally goes and takes sannyasa. This was the process. So, but generally, this is very difficult these days. So, sannyasa and vanaprastha literally, practically does not exist. In fact, sannyasa is not recommended in this age of Kali Yuga also. So, the two ashramas that is left out are Brahmachari and Grihastha. So, Narad Muni is persuading Dhruva Maharaj to go back home and come back at a suitable time when he is in the Grihastha when he will get an opportunity to meditate. If one does not practice Grihastha properly, then it is called Grihamedi, they who live for the purpose of sense gratification. Grihamedi in Medi means actually an animal. Medi refers to an animal who goes in circles and labors like an animal. Medi may also means that jealousy, and so whoever Grihamedis live, that means they are jealousy or selfish, and it's in an extended form or in a selfish form. That is, for the extended form is selfishness for community, identification with society, nation, etc. These are the Grihamedis. But and those who are materially engrossed, being blind to the knowledge of the absolute truth, they have many, many matters for hearing like politics, sociology, economics, and so forth. They are all Grihamedis. So generally, what happens is jealousy arises when one is blind to the knowledge of the absolute truth. And there are many, many topics for them, politics, science, etc. They don't have interest to inquire about the real purpose of life and the problems of birth, death, old age, and disease. Whereas the Grihasthas live for the purpose of realizing the absolute truth. Whereas the Grihamedis live for the purpose of sense gratification. Griha means actually it's a home. Home means it's a temple of Krishna. That is why earlier I mentioned that Grihasthas generally bring deities of Krishna at home and then worship them. Grihastha also means that caring for each other in a way that both are maintained materially and spiritually centered around God and preaching the glories of the Lord. So they are maintained well enough, both materially and spiritually, centered around God consciousness and always preaching the glories of the Lord. The best means of purification is better, none other than preaching the glories of the Lord. Therefore, it is said that one should accept the spiritual master and then one should hear from him very patiently. And this spiritual master is none other than a external manifestation of the Paramatma feature of the Lord. So the Lord is situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. And when one becomes qualified, the Lord expands as the spiritual master and appears in the front of the disciple, progressive, prospective disciple. Now, some examples are given in Srimad Bhagavatam. For example, Devahuti was from a very princely background and she was married to a hermitage sage called Kardamuni. And then after marriage, she served him so very well that she became very skinny. And once she told Kardamuni, "My dear Brahmana, how I know that you have achieved perfection and that you are the master of all the infallible mystic yogic powers because you are under the protection of Yogamaya, the transcendental nature. But you once made a promise that our bodily union should now fulfill, since children are a great quality for a chaste woman who has a glorious husband. So please think of a suitable house for this purpose." So once Devahuti pleaded to Kardamuni so that they can have union and have a child, because she knew that Kardamuni would one time go away to the forest for meditation, and she wanted someone to be protected. So this way she pleaded, and then Kardamuni actually built a huge mansion in which he took her around the globe. And thereafter they had union. So first they had many daughters, and afterwards Lord Kapila was born. So this is how Devahuti pleaded. So that is a perfect Grihastha example given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So civilization, actually, real civilization means that one goes as per the principles given by the Creator. Today, generally, civilization is misunderstood as having a certain amount of standard of living, like politics and quality of standards, etc., ownership of property, car, etc. So it's a misconceived meaning of civilization. But that's not human civilization. Srila Prabhupada always mentioned that this is a cat and dog. society. And so the Lord designed this Varnashrama system so that people can be trained in these Varnas and Ashramas based on the qualities they have and not by their birth. So that means a Brahmana does not necessarily become a person born in a Brahmin family does not necessarily become a Brahmana. A person born in a Kshatriya family does not become termed to be called as a Kshatriya. So the Grihasthashram as per Vedas is based on renunciation. That means not exactly giving up everything, but rather utilizing the family, income, everything in the service of the Lord. That is the most important aspect of the Grihasthashrama. This ashram is very important in the sense that while in the other ashramas, detachment is very, very practiced very easily. Like Brahmachari, the student lives in the Gurukul, so it is easy to practice detachment. And then when one goes to Vanaprastha or takes up sannyasa, at that time also detachment is easy because he's disassociated with the material world. But when one is in the Grihasthashrama, he has his wife, his children, etc. So at that time, practicing renunciation is not very, very easy. But that is the purpose of this Grihasthashrama, that one remains detached from the whole family affair. Rather utilizes everything and everyone in the service of Krishna. That is where the training is very, very important for one to be a successful Grihasthashrama, for which actually one should be a successful Brahmachari. If one has a desire to become a Grihastha, then one should also become a successful Brahmachari, which would lead him to make him a successful Grihastha. So this is how the Gurukul of the yesteryears were very useful in training the members of the society. So this is based on the qualities one has developed in the previous birth. They identified and placed themselves for training. So Grihastha should adopt the Varnashrama system where one is directed to worship of Lord Vishnu. There's an example given that we all have heard the name of Gurujana Prabhu. His wife was a film actress and she acted in a film. And she happened to meet Srila Prabhupada. And then Srila Prabhupada asked her and Gurujana Prabhu both to go to Hong Kong. So they went, and there initially they had a lot of difficulties adjusting within themselves. But then Srila Prabhupada told that the importance of the Grihastha Ashrama system. He did not enforce them, but over a period of time, his wife realized the importance of the system, adopted it, and even now they lead a very successful, happily married life. So this is what the Grihastha Ashrama example is. And as far as women are concerned, the Vedic society did not permit the women to go outside. And they were trained to be at home, and they were taught how to serve the husband without any material motive. That was the traditional Indian culture. But what happens is we Indians are very good in adopting the Western culture and imitate them. So now we see that women also dressed in all odd types of clothing and all, they go outside. And then in the process, the men are also contaminated because they are not very powerful brahmacharis. So Grihasthashrama means there is a responsibility for that. First to become Krishna consciousness and then preach. Now here we see Narad Muni giving instructions to Dhruva Maharaj. Now when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was here, he gave different instructions to different devotees, depending on what he thought would be the most suitable for them. He told Raghunath Bhatta Goswami not to marry. He told Nityananda Prabhu to enter into Grihasthashrama, and Nityananda Prabhu got married. Then he thought what was the most needed at that time, even a perfect society, Grihasthashrama is a must. And there must be funds, and the other ashrama, the most important fact is that the other three ashramas, that is Brahmachari, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, they are dependent on the Grihasthashrama for their ashramas for the support. So people in the Grihasthashrama must be pure and God consciousness. Otherwise, they will not be able to support the other three ashramas. Because the other three ashramas, they don't have any means of income. So the Grihastha ashramas support the other three ashramas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself was a perfect Grihastha, and he would invite many saintly personalities to their home, give them sufficient prasadam, and he ensured that Krishna consciousness is practiced by everyone with a proper sadhana. Some of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associate would all the way come from Bengal and come to see him to Puri every year. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in fact, told Mukunda, Raghunandan, and Narahari. To Mukunda, he told to earn material and spiritual wealth. That is, earn material wealth and then utilize it for spreading the welfare of the society. To Raghunandan, he told him to engage in serving the deity in the temple and imbibe Krishna consciousness to the visitors. And the deities in the temple are not just idols, but rather they are trained, they are beautifully dressed so that those who come to see the Lord's form in the temple, they become attracted to the beauty of the Lord, which is what we see when we go to the really nice temple. Ladies are dressed very, very uh, opulently, that those who come, they get attracted by seeing the form of the Lord. So there is an example, another contrasting example in Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 13th Bhagavatam, 13th chapter, where we find as a history of King Anga. He was a very great devotee of the Lord, but his wife Sunita was the daughter of death personified, the daughter of Yamaraj. Generally, the daughter receives the qualifications of her father, and the son acquires those of the mother. So the child born of King Anga became the follower of his maternal grandfather. According to Smriti Shastra, a child generally follows the principle of his maternal uncle's house. So if the maternal family is very corrupt or sinful, the child also becomes sinful, even though born of a good father. Therefore, it is said that according to Vedic civilization, marriage takes place in account when both the boys and girl families see each other's qualities and qualifications. If, as per astrological calculation, the combination is not perfect, then marriage does not take place. If it is perfect, then marriage takes place. Otherwise, what happens? If there is a mistake, then family life becomes frustrating. So, coming back to the point, this Sunita was so atheistic, that married life became a nightmare for the entire family. On the other hand, we see in this case of Dhruva Maharaj himself, when he was boarding the plane after finding up his pastimes to Vaikuntha, he remembered his mother because it was his mother who directed him to go to the forest and meditate on the Supreme Lord and showed him the way for perfection. So at the final stage, when his pastimes are over and the Vishnu Dutas came to pick him up, he remembered that his mother was like a Shiksha Guru for him, and he wanted an arrangement for his mother to be also taken to Vaikuntha because she was the one who guided him to take up this path. So they, Vaikuntha Loka, the Dutas, Ganda and Sunanda, they could understand the mind of Dhruva Maharaj and showed that his mother Suniti is going also in another plane. This is how Dhruva Maharaj's compassion to his mother was, who earlier showed him the path of perfection. For one to lead a grahastha life, like I mentioned, one should be a successful brahmachari. And people are not good in brahmachari ashram, grahastha also. Grahastha ashrama generally become grihamedis. They live for sense gratification. One example of a perfect brahmachari is Sukadeva Goswami. He was so pure that he did not differentiate between male and female bodies. This is mentioned in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He did not put any cloth on his body, but he was going around like a madman. But the same, his father, Vyasadeva, would pass by. The women would cover their body with clothes. So Vyasadeva was surprised and he asked them, why is it that he passed by? They were feeling shameful. Whereas Sukadeva Goswami, when he passed by, they didn't. The women replied that Sukadeva Goswami did not see the difference between a male and a female, whereas Vyasadeva was a Grihastha and he should always see a difference between both. This is how important Grihasthashrama is. On the contrary, during Srila Prabhupada's time, there is an example. Srila Prabhupada always used to quote that Srila Prabhupada's Bhakti, his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura, actually sent a disciple called Bon Maharaj to London, and he met an aristocratic gentleman linked to the Queen and the government. So, when he met the aristocratic person, he asked, "Why have you come here?" So Bon Maharaj replied, "I have come here to make brahmanas." Then he asked, "What is this brahmana?" So Bon Maharaj replied that brahmana means no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit sex. Then immediately that British aristocrat said that this is not the place for you, please leave. So Bon Maharaj came back and still Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and senior disciples gave him a warm welcome and appreciated the attempts made by him. So Srila Prabhupada is always commented, where my sannyasi godbrothers failed, my three Grihastha disciples succeeded. That means he sent three couples in their mid-20s, that is Mother Yamuna, Mother Mahalati, Mother Janaki and their husbands, and he said that they were perpetual sannyasis, though they were placed in Grihastha ashrama, they were the perfect sannyasis. So, Grihastha ashramas must remain or for a higher purpose, that is satisfying Krishna. They must remain united, that means the husband and wife must remain united, have care for each other, and trust and develop mutual respect and faith in each other. As they should be a true example to everyone in the society. They should serve together without any false ego and find common ground to serve. They should earn money for the sustenance of the family, and children should be brought up in Krishna consciousness. So this is how Grihastha Ashrama is very, very important ashram. And then another example is Sudama Brahmana and his wife. They were both dedicated to the service of the Lord. It's an opportunity to seek blessings. So this is how another example given in Srimad Bhagavatam is about Swayambhuva Manu. Even when he was there in a household wife, they all would wake up to the sound of trumpets and shahanais, etc. And that means the kirtan was going on throughout the day. Early morning, they would wake up to the voice of the kirtan, and night before going to bed also, they would sing, they would hear singers singing the songs of the Lord, about the pastimes of the Lord, etc. This is how the Vedic system was. And here we see that Dhruva Maharaj is being persuaded by Narad Muni to go back home. But actually, Narad Muni is testing Dhruva Maharaj for his determination, whether he is trying to see whether Dhruva Maharaj is really determined to continue with his austerities or not. So a true spiritual master test his disciple before giving him initiation. And when one becomes successful, then one is initiated to the system. So Narad Muni was testing Dhruva Maharaj actually to see whether he was determined to do the austerities that were required to be performed by him to do. So this is the actually mentioned in the purport, that a spiritual master is required to test his disciple whether he is capable of performing the spiritual activities or not. So Swayambhuva Manu, Dhruva Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj is another example. It is not that Narad Muni thought that Dhruva Maharaj was too young to practice austerities. We also have an example in Srimad Bhagavatam of Prahlad Maharaj, who says Kaumaram Acharya, that sloka is there, in which he says that one should practice Krishna consciousness right from the beginning of his life, from the time of his birth. One should practice devotional service. So devotional service is something that can be taken up at any stage of a life. It is not that one should enjoy his youth with women. At a young age, he should play with sports with other boys and etc., which is mentioned in the purport here. So the devotional service is that such that one can take up at any stage, right from the time of his birth all the way up to his death. And devotional service is such that it gets carried away from one birth to another. Whereas we see examples here of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj, etc., they all started their devotional service at a very young age and practiced it through and through. That is how they were very, very successful. We see many times that with children, when they pick up something at a very young age, they become experts in that particular field. Similarly, when they take up the path of devotional service at a very young age, they are able to perfect that devotional service at a very young age itself. So Narad Muni did not mean that Guru Maharaj should leave the austerities and go. Rather, he was wanting to see that Guru Maharaj was determined to practice or not. This is how a spiritual master tests his disciple. So with this, I conclude the class for the day. Any of you have got any questions or any comments, you can ask me for the next 2-3 minutes or 4 minutes, whatever it is. Do any of you have any questions, any comments? If no questions or comments, I'll take the class as closed. So thank you all very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam